Alright, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing another deck tech over Go-Shintai of Life's Origin in EDH. And before we start, if you like this deck, there is a deck list in the description below. We will not go over every single card in the deck, but we'll go over a lot of the important cards. And if you like this video and you like this deck tech, press the like button, and we have other deck techs on the channel to check out, and we also have a playlist of deck techs. We have a playlist of EDH guides. And if you like this channel, do me a favor, consider subscribing to the channel. That would help me a lot. Anyways, we're going over Go-Shintai of Life's Origin today. It is a 4 mana for a 3/4. It is a 5 color commander because it has a 5 color activation. So you can play all 5 colors in your deck, which is good because shrines come in all 5 colors. And it has the ability where you can pay one of any color, or one of every color, and you tap it to return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. However, its big ability is whenever it or another non-token shrine enters the battlefield, you create a shrine enchantment creature token. So the strategy of the deck is to play enchantments with the enchantment type shrine. Shrines will get better the more shrines you have in play, and then you copy the triggers. So first of all, when Go-Shintai comes in, he makes a shrine. So whenever you play Go-Shintai, you're going to have 2 shrines. And then anytime you play another shrine, it's going to make an additional shrine token. So at minimum, if you have Go-Shintai and another shrine out, one of your Hondens, one of your Go-Shintais, or one of your Sanctums, you're going to have probably around 4 shrines out. And anytime you play a shrine, you're going to up your shrine count by 2 because Go-Shintai will make a token. And so let's say minimum 4 shrines. Honden of Seeing Winds is 5 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card for each shrine you control. If you have 4 shrines, you're going to be drawing 4 cards at your upkeep. Now, what you can do with these is you can copy them with stuff like Strionic Resonator, which can copy target triggered abilities, so it can copy the abilities Honden of Seeing Winds, so you draw double the amount of cards. And you have other abilities like this. So this is just an example of what the shrines do. And so first we'll go over your win cons. There are 3 of them, which is good because you have redundancy if one of them gets destroyed, or if you can't find one of them. Go-Shintai of Ancient Wars triggers at your end step. You may pay 1, and when you do, it deals X damage to target player or planeswalker, where X is the number of shrine you control. So this, if you have, 5 or 6 shrines, at the beginning of your end step, you're going to be dealing 5 or 6 damage to target opponent. Honden of Infinite Rage does the same thing, except it's during your upkeep. And it can also kill creatures as well, so that's really interesting. So if there's a creature that's stopping you from targeting your opponent, or if there's a creature that's important, you can use Honden of Infinite Rage to kill it. But the best one is Sanctum of Stonefang. So 1 in a black, it's a very cheap enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, each opponent, so it hits each opponent, where the red ones only hit 1 opponent, loses X life and you gain X life, or X is the number of shrines you control. So at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, your opponent's going to be losing anywhere from like 4 at the minimum to 12 life, depending on how many shrines you have in play. So these are your win cons. They're going to be dealing damage to your opponent based on how many shrines you have in play. We also have draw cards. So these will allow you to find your win cons or find more shrines to put into play. Sanctum of Calm Waters. Beginning your pre-combat main phase, you may draw X cards, or X is the number of shrines you control. Then you discard a card. So for 4 mana, you can draw maybe 4 or 5 cards every turn, which is absolutely insane. And then Honden of Seeing Winds, we already talked about, is the same thing. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card for each shrine you control, drawing 4 or 5 cards from one shrine, because of the tokens you're making of Go-Shintai is pretty insane. Next, we have some other good shrines. These are some other shrines that allow you to win the game in other ways or give you some sort of advantage. Go-Shintai of Shared Purpose. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token for each shrine you control. So what you can do is, if you have like 4 or 5 shrines at your end step, you can pay 1, make these 5 1/1s, which, don't really seem all that much. But if you do this every turn, you can make a pretty good board, after 3 or 4 turns. Go-Shintai of Boundless Vigor. Beginning of your end step, you may pay 1. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on target shrine for each shrine you control. So you turn any of your shrine tokens into actually like effective attackers, or you can turn a Go-Shintai from a 1/3 into like a 5/5, right? Now, Go-Shintai Boundless Vigor has Trample, so it's actually a really good target for its own ability. So you can pay 1 and put 4 counters on it and turn it into a 5/5 attacker. Pretty sweet. Haunting the Life's Web does the same thing as Go-Shintai of Shared Purpose, except it triggers on your upkeep instead of your instep, so a little bit worse because you have to wait a whole turn, but it's still a really powerful effect. Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest gives you mana at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, where the mana is equal to the number of shrines you control, so that can really accelerate you, so you can cast more shrines, or you can cast other cards in this deck we'll talk about later. Some more shrines. We have Go-Shintai of Hidden Cruelty. So at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1, and you destroy target creature of toughness X or less, or X number of shrines you control. So if you have 5 or 6 shrines at the beginning of your end step, you can just pay 1 and just kill whatever the strongest creature at the table is. That's pretty darn good. And you can do this to control the board, prevent opponents from killing you with their strongest creature, and you can use this politically too to kill whoever the biggest threats are, biggest creatures. Second, a Tranquil Light doesn't seem great at first. It's a 1 mana shrine, so for 1 mana you can trigger Go-Shintai to make an additional shrine, and this counts towards all your other shrines, so that's really great. And then you can pay 5 and a white to tap target creature. However, this ability costs 1 less to activate for each shrine you control. So realistically, you're only going to be paying 2, maybe 3 mana, and most of the time 1 mana for this ability to tap creatures. So this will allow you to control the board, allow you to tap down creatures so you can attack, and also allow you to tap down creatures so that you can not get attacked. And you can use this politically. You can say, hey, if you try to attack me, I'll tap down your creatures. Pretty effective political piece and defensive piece. Haunted of Cleansing Fire will gain you lots of life, which is good at preventing yourself from dying. And then Haunted of Night's Reach, at the beginning of your upkeep, your target opponent discards a card for each shrine you control. It is targeting one opponent to discard cards, but if there's an opponent that's playing a more interactive deck, they're playing control or they're playing a combo deck, having them discard cards is going to really slow down their game plan and allow you to, stay in the game longer. Now we're going to talk about the lackluster shrines. I think you still play these because they trigger your Go-Shintai and they add to your shrine count. They're just not that great. Go-Shintai of Lost Wisdom makes a target player mill X cards, X the number of shrines you control. We're playing Commander. You have a 100-card deck. This is not as good as it is in 60-card formats. And then Sanctum of Shattered Heights requires you to discard a land card to deal X damage to a creature or planeswalker. You can't even hit someone in the face. And it is a pretty big hoop to jump through because you want your shrines on the battlefield, and you need as many lands as you can get so that you can play more shrines. So it's not that great, but it still adds to your shrine count and can be effective if you get too many lands. You can discard them to deal damage to creatures. And this also works off Go-Shintai because you can discard shrines and return the shrines into play with Go-Shintai's ability. So that's a little corner case. Anyways, we talked about all these sanctums, but the best sanctum, by far, the best shrine, is Sanctum of All because it lets you search your library for a shrine and put it into play. So you can use Sanctum of All to find one of your win cons, to find your draw card, to find ways to make you mana or tokens. And then it says if an ability of another shrine you control triggers, while you control 6 or more shrines, it triggers an additional time. So if you have this and 5 other shrines, or if you have 6 shrines or 10 shrines or however many, let's just say 6, your shrines trigger an additional time. So let's go over some of these cards. Instead of dealing 6 damage to your opponent, you're going to be dealing 12 damage to your opponent with these. Instead of draining each opponent for 6, you're draining each opponent for 12 and gaining X life, 12 life. That's pretty crazy. You just want to draw 12 cards? That's pretty insane. Make 12 tokens. Put 12 counters on your trampoline, dude. Make 12 tokens. Add 12 mana. Destroy any creature in Magic's history. Okay. That doesn't really affect much. Gain 24 life. Someone discards their entire hand at your upkeep. Even this becomes good because now you're making someone mill 12 cards. So if you're able to double with Sanctum of All, you can get some insane value off of these. Just imagine your Hand and drawing you 12 cards or draining each opponent for 12. Like, that's just crazy value. So this is the best Sanctum in the deck. I would try to search for this with Enlightened Tutor or Idyllic Tutor or any of your other tutors and put this into play as soon as you can, because this is the best shrine in the entire deck. And this also shows you how good doubling those abilities are. So one of the things of the deck is that you have these triggers that get better than the amount of shrines you have, but you want to, maybe activate them more than once. So we have some cards that do that. So we already talked about Shrine Resonator. You can pay 2 and tap it to copy a triggered ability, and you may choose new targets for it. So you can copy, your Honden, you can copy your Sanctum of Stone Fangs to drain your opponent twice. You can copy your draw abilities to draw more cards. Weaver of Harmony is a good one. Copy target activator or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. All of your shrines are enchantments, so you're going to be able to copy any of the shrines abilities, even as draining your opponents, making tokens, gaining life, drawing cards, all of that. The best one, though, is Paradox Sage. At the beginning of enchanted player's first upkeep, that player gets an additional upkeep. So what you want to do with this is, if you noticed, the Hondens all trigger on your upkeep. And if you have a Paradox Sage out, those Hondens will trigger twice. So Honden of Infinite's Rage at the beginning of your upkeep, so you'll be able to deal damage equal to the number of shrines you control twice. With Honden of Singwind, draw twice as many cards. With Honden Life's Web, make twice as many tokens. Honden of Cleansing Fire, gain twice as much life. Honden of Night's Reach, make 2 opponents discard their hand instead of 1. So Paradox Haze also works well with Sanctum of All, because it says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may search your library for a shrine card and put it into play. Now, if you have 2 upkeeps, you're going to be able to search for 2 shrines off of Sanctum of All, and it works well with your Hondens. It does not work well with your Go-Shintai or your Sanctums, but it works well with 6 of your 13 shrines, so that's going to be pretty darn good. And, just being able to get 1 extra activation out of this is definitely worth the mana. And it's an enchantment itself, so it will trigger off of your enchantresses. So these are ways you can get multiple triggers, very strong. You want multiple triggers from your Go-Shintais. You want your multiple triggers from your shrines to be able to overwhelm your opponent. Now, this deck is a little bit slow to get off the ground. You have to pay a 4 mana. You have to play a 4 mana enchantment and then play multiple enchantments. So you have to really build your board. So you need ways to protect yourself. Sphere, Safety, and Propaganda keep creatures from attacking you. Propaganda is really cheap, and it stops them unless they pay 2. Sphere Safety really gets better the more enchantments you have, so that's going to be a really sweet card. Then Blind Obedience, make sure your opponent's artifacts and creatures enter tapped. It's going to slow them down and also give you a pretty good secondary win con, in that you can pay the Extort whenever you cast a spell to make each opponent lose 1 life and you gain, 3 life. So that can be a really good ability if you're just casting lots of enchantments or lots of shrines. Next, we want Recursion. One of the problems with playing an enchantment deck is that your opponent can sweep the field of Back to Nature or Austere Command or Fade from History. So you're going to play cards like Replenish to return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to play. Dance of the Mans returns up to X target artifact or enchantment cards with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you choose, 4, you get 4 enchantments back with CMC 4 or less. But if you pay a lot of mana into this, if X is 6 or more, they're going to become 4/4 creatures. So now your Hondens and your Sanctums, they're going to be 4/4 creatures, and they can actually deal damage in addition to their effects, which is kind of a downside sometimes because their creatures are easier to remove, but it can be an upside if you're going to win the game with it. And then Eerie Ultimatum just returns any number of permanent cards of different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's really hard to cast, but we are playing a primarily green-white deck. You just need triple black, and we play a lot of enchantments that fix our mana, and we play a lot of different things, so it's not going to be too difficult to get. And that is it for this video. I hope you like this quick rundown of Go-Shintai. Make sure you look at the deck list below. We have, enchantresses in the deck. We have mana fixing and all other stuff. I didn't think that would be too interesting for the video, but, I hope you learned the general strategy of the deck and some of the deck's weaknesses. It's kind of slow, and also it's easy to sweep away all the enchantments. So yeah, I hope you like this video. Make sure you press the like button, consider subscribing, and let me know what you think about this deck in the comments below. And yeah, check out the deck list. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.